All right, looks like the majority of people have logged in. So again, thank you for joining us today. We have people from all over North America and representing agencies ranging from municipalities to K-12 special districts. It's great to see this turnout here, specifically as we talk about what we're calling the new era of procurement. We're excited to launch possibly our biggest launch yet in terms of features in Bonfire's history. And that's not only in terms of functionality, but also in terms of the breadth of what we're able to offer and also the way we're seeing procurement evolve. And so we'll be talking about this quite a bit. Before digging further, though, I'd like to introduce myself as well as everybody who's joining us today. So my name is Omar Salame. I'm the Chief Client and Product Officer here at Bonfire. I've been at Bonfire almost since the start, and I've worked directly with over 100 procurement teams in digitizing their sourcing process. And since then, my team has been directly helping all kinds of organizations go from a paper-based process to a digital process. I'm also joined by my colleagues on the product management team. So Doug McKendrick, he's the manager of product management. Liu Yang is a director of product and data, and Kyle Champion is a product manager on our team. And all of them were heavily involved in the research, specification, and building out of the functionality we'll be looking at today. Now, before we dig further into it, we thought we'd just give you a quick high-level overview of our agenda today. We're actually going to start with a quick poll right after the agenda. COVID is on everybody's mind, and we want to just kind of get a sense from you, the audience today, how you see things evolving as we head into 2021. After that, we're going to be looking at what Bonfire is evolving. Why have we made the changes that we've made today? And then we're going to look at these features that we're releasing today, namely intake, benchmarking, and our new bidding process, and end with Q&A. So again, before we get started, we thought we'd launch a quick poll here to get a sense for your perception of how things change now that we have COVID. And so really looking at 2021, we kind of have a good understanding of how teams are kind of handling the situation when it kind of erupted randomly or suddenly, seemingly, earlier this year. And we saw very closely how teams have adapted to the reality of having a pandemic and running procurement during a pandemic. But now we're thinking ahead, and you can select as many of these as possible. And the goal behind this poll is to kind of give us a sense of where you see procurement changing, and really that gives us a signal in terms of what we can do to help your teams kind of navigate this pandemic as we head into 2021. And so we'll just give everybody, maybe a quick 30 seconds or so, and then we'll discuss the results, and that will be a great segue into our next section. Okay, so very quickly here, 64% are seeing that they're going to be more cost conscious, and that makes a lot of sense. The tax revenue base is definitely impacted due to the pandemic, and we can see that definitely cascading down to procurement teams and having extra pressure on you to deliver more cost savings. Fewer heads and higher workloads is another one there, but the highest one actually with 91% is being the needing to be remote capable across the entire procurement team. And that is a huge trend that we saw as well. And we'll be actually talking quite a bit about it today. This is actually really good that we're seeing alignment there. And then in last place, it will be more important than ever to demonstrate. And I don't have the rest of it there, but we have it on the slide there. So Amy, if we could switch out to the slide, please. Yeah, so okay, so then we're gonna switch gears now to talk about, and again, just based on the poll results, I think you'll find this very timely in terms of the things that we're launching and why Bonfire is evolving. So to give you a little bit of background, because we do have clients and those who haven't seen Bonfire yet on the call today, we work with over 400 North American public sector organizations, and we've seen firsthand how the demands on procurement are changing. And this demand is coming not only from your internal stakeholders, but also from the supplier community. So needless to say, the pressures on procurement have only been amplified due to COVID. And the importance of procurement in times of crisis is definitely a hot topic now. We're talking about, supply chain shortages in terms of PPEs, and this is becoming something that's hitting, the news cycle. And so in a time when procurement was needed most, many procurement teams were left scrambling to bring critical supplies and services to their constituents, and at the same time do it offline. So this is, for us, the way we see it, that we've heard it from our client base, is that it's a unique moment for procurement. There has never been more of a spotlight on the function, and yet at the same time, it's been revealed that a lot of procurement teams are actually, not really empowered to do this important work, primarily because, they're challenged now to working from home. And so you're presented with this double whammy. At one hand, you're critical to the operation to make sure our communities and constituents are healthy and we can kickstart the economy again. But at the same time, many teams were finding themselves working from home suddenly and managing, a paper bidding process. And so if you feel these pressures, you're not alone. Earlier this spring, we launched our emergency response program, in which we offered Bonfire to any agency that wants to use it to basically help with the COVID relief. And during that time, we've seen over 50 organizations sign on. And I know some of these clients are actually joining us on the call today. And we were able to enable these organizations to go from a completely offline world to an online world in an average of only 2 weeks. The point here is digitization is actually much easier than you think. And again, we were able to demonstrate that very quickly with these organizations that found themselves in a very tough spot. But the way we see, that bringing procurement online is actually one of the steps towards modernizing procurement in this new era that we're talking about. Because the future of procurement, as we see it, is connected procurement, and connected not just to the internet, but connected to every stakeholder, to your vendors, and even to best practices from other procurement peers. It's connected to the overall community of procurement professionals across North America. So Bonfire is evolving to do more than just bringing your process online. Bonfire's new features that we're going to be talking about today are designed to strengthen the connections and relationships between procurement and the rest of your agency, driving greater agency impact, achieving better outcomes, and engaging your colleagues along the way. So that's kind of the reasoning and how we're thinking about the new era of procurement. But before we dive deeper into that, I wanted to give you a quick kind of background about Bonfire in terms of our history and how we work with our clients. And so again, so today we have a combination of current clients on the call today. Some of them have been with us for years, some have just signed up, as well as procurement professionals who are just interested in learning about how Bonfire is evolving and maybe finding themselves in the situation in which they have to digitize. And so Bonfire is a cloud-based strategic sourcing platform that covers every stage of your process. We're able to do all of this thanks to the feedback and consultation from our clients, really from day one. I think the 300 clients who are on the call today can attest to the fact that Bonfire has a proven history of customer-driven innovation. And we always say, we're not doing your job day to day. You know your pain points and challenges more than anyone else, and we just want to learn those from you and kind of aggregate these insights to make a platform that works for you, for your stakeholders. And as you'll see in the webinar today, this goes beyond just digitization. It's about enablement and empowerment of the procurement function to become a true strategic partner at your organization. So we launched Bonfire in 2012. Since then, we've been able to continuously evolve our platform and have become experts in North American public procurement practices. And we wouldn't have features like benchmarking today that we're going to talk about without the evaluation tools that we launched 8 years ago. So with that, let's start with the first of our 3 major product feature launches, Bonfire Intake. And this module is designed to make it easy for your colleagues to bring their requests to procurement. This module allows you to go upstream in digitizing your sourcing process and to help drive the conversation with your stakeholders. It also allows you to better manage and triage incoming requests. Needless to say, we're very excited about introducing Intake to everyone on the call today. And so, Doug, I'll hand it over to you to talk us through why we created this module and what it looks like.
Great. Thanks, Omar. Really appreciate that intro. So before we get started, wanted to give everyone an opportunity listening to respond to a poll. The question we want to ask is, how do you currently receive procurement requests today? And please select all that apply. So as you're going through it, I'm just going to talk about these a little bit. But maybe you receive your requests through emails, which I'm sure many of you agree that it's difficult to manage and track, especially when there's a lot of back and forth information to collect. And when we weren't working from home, maybe you were collecting this information through informal conversations, water cooler at the hallway, people coming up to your desk. You also might have a form or set of questions that you ask people to fill out, or in some cases, you could just have another process that you've built that's being utilized. So really curious to see what you and your teams are doing today. So I'll just give everyone a few moments here to fill this out. Great, so let's look at these results here. So quite a high number of people receiving emails, 3/4. That's quite high. Informal conversations, 41%. The next highest, 54% forms or a set of questions, and 37% have some other process. So this is kind of what I expected. Aligns with our research that it's kind of all over the place, and it kind of leads into the problem that we're looking to solve, that there isn't really a consistent process. And so I want to highlight that Bonfire. At Bonfire, our product roadmap has always been driven by our clients' experience and feedback. Conversations with our clients reveal just how much time and effort teams are putting into collecting this information and requirements upfront before a project is even started or drafted. We talked to about 30 of our clients to get insight on how they capture requests from stakeholders, and we learned what the current state of intake was. And here are just some of the quotes from our clients that we wanted to share here. We usually get sent requests in email, or someone walks up to us in the hallway. We prioritize by whoever is screaming the loudest, or we don't even have time for drafts. We just enter it in and go live. We're usually building it that day. So you can see some very clear pain points here in regards to handling these inbound requests. And in our research, we also noticed some distinct patterns across most, if not all, of our conversations. And let's see if you can relate to any of these. Most organizations don't have a formal intake process, although the majority that we spoke with used forms or a set of questions to collect that upfront information. There's still a lot of back and forth to solidify it. Once that information is captured, prioritization and planning is still a big challenge. So in the quote here by whoever's screaming the loudest, you can see you don't even get the opportunity to plan as a team. Your team is just being reactive instead of proactive. And lastly, many organizations don't have a consistent process for when guiding requests towards a solicitation or a project. And this keeps stakeholders in the dark. When stakeholders feel as if they have no visibility into your process or don't understand the next steps, this can lead to them feeling frustrated, worried about the project, and in the end, that means more work for you. So all of this client feedback really highlighted a gap that a lot of teams experience, which is a standardized request intake process that is readily adopted by the rest of the organization. And I want to highlight that last bit, that it needs to be readily adopted, and it's critical to have a process that can be adopted, because without the buy-in, this process is going to fall through. So considering communication and collaboration at the beginning of any competitive event is critical to ensuring things are on time, in budget, and meet clients' needs. We know how important it is to be involved in the process as early as possible with the right information. So with client feedback in mind, we set out to digitize this critical step in the life cycle that enables the whole event from cradle to contract to be managed in one tool for faster events, more transparency, and reportability. Now, I want to talk about what makes it unique and what Bonfire Intake is about. That's more than just an online form or a set of questions. Our mission with this module was to make it easy for your colleagues to engage with procurement teams early so that you can integrate strategic planning at the start of each project, instead of being brought in too late and having to execute on less than stable conditions. Bonfire Intake includes digital tools to make it easy to work with your team. It shows insights and data to add strategic value during the planning, and one central online place for all requests and upcoming projects. We'll dive into each of these benefits as we take a look at Bonfire Intake in action. Now, before I jump into the demo, I want to mention something. Like many of you today, I am sitting at my home office along with my colleagues also in their home offices, and we're trying to coordinate this webinar, about 5 or 6 of us total. You can imagine that trying to run 3 separate demos, switching screens between users while depending on various unstable internet connections could be a recipe for disaster. And so we pre-recorded the video portion of these demos to ensure we wouldn't have hiccups in terms of walking through it. But that said, I can't make any promises. You won't hear my cat in the background at least once on this call as I go through intake here. So we just need to get the video opened up here. Perfect, see the video there, that's great. You want to just hit play. Great, so I want to start from the beginning, and it's about submitting a request to the procurement team. I want to take you through submitting a request from the perspective of someone who's in your organization but not on your team, just to show how easy it is. So once you log on, you'll be taken to this page, My Requests, and then all you have to do is click Submit a New Request, and it'll take you to this form. You just fill out the required information and hit Submit. It's that easy. Our goal here is simplicity, because we know how critical it is to get buy-in from your organization stakeholders. And so the easier it is to use, the easier that buy-in and implementation is. It also creates a consistent and repeatable process, regardless about who's submitting the request, whether it's you on your team or someone else. So all you have to do is fill in the name, the required information here, and click Submit. It's that easy. Now, I want to jump back to this original page here called My Requests. I want to highlight that the user that's logged in has full visibility into the request they've submitted. We talked about how managing internal stakeholder expectations is a challenge, but this gives the visibility of where the status is, what the status is of these requests. So you can see them on this page for the ones I've submitted. You can see who it's assigned to and the information that I passed along. So that way they can be up to date on their request without even having to involve you and ask those questions. So now you might be wondering, okay, so how does it work for me and my team when I have all these requests being submitted to us? And that's where the intake dashboard comes in. This page is your central intake hub that consolidates all inbound requests to your team. You notice that it's tied directly to your existing Bonfire ecosystem at the top, so you can quickly access the other modules you have enabled. On this page, you'll have the high-level KPIs for a quick summary, so you can see the total number of requests submitted, unassigned requests, new requests, which ones are draft ready. And down below, you have the request inbox, which provides a summary of all of the details of the active requests that still require your team's attention. You can quickly assign requests in each individual row. And you can also search, download, or sort so you can find what you need. And then as a member of the team, you can also submit a new request easily by clicking Submit a New Request button on this page. Now, once you're done with the request, you've collected everything and you've moved on, you can also archive it. This is a way for your team to plan and prioritize while keeping your inbox clean. To see the archive requests, all you have to do is click on the left side, Archive Requests, and you'll see all the details of those requests that you've actively moved over to be archived. Now, to dive into the details of a specific request, you just click, you find the row, and you click on the link. This page includes all of the request information you saw previously, but it also allows you to update the assigned to. You can update the status, and you complete the various actions like archive and delete. We also understand that the details that were originally submitted may not be 100% accurate. They might include typos, or you need to add more information. So your team has the ability to edit the information once it's been submitted. I want to highlight that this is only available to procurement team members, so a stakeholder can't come back and modify their request once it's been submitted. So you're in full control, which we realize how important that is. So it's simply going to the edit request and hitting save or cancel if you don't want to commit to them. The other feature on this page I want to bring up is a feature you'll be talking about soon called Bonfire Benchmarking. Once a request is submitted to your team, You'll be able to leverage national and local data and add strategic value as soon as the request comes into your team. All of this data is just one click away. You click on the icon on the bottom right, and it'll automatically open a bunch of key metrics and data available to you tied to the type of request. I'm not going to jump into the details of the benchmarks and the data. That's going to be Liu. She's the expert. But I just wanted to show you how easily accessible this information is. Now, once all the details are finalized, you can change the status into draft ready, and you'll be one click away from creating a project draft by just clicking this button here. And what that does is it'll create a draft for you, and it'll automatically link the request and the project, so you have that audit trail and it's preserved for you for reportability. Now, lastly, we also realize there are times that your team needs to focus on what's coming next without accessing the intake module. And so what we've done is we added a new section on your project dashboard called Request Ready for Draft. So you can imagine here that you'll be able to properly forecast and plan your procurement pipeline by just seeing which projects are active and pending, but also which requests need to move from a draft to from a request to a draft in the near future. And that's intake. Passing it back to you, Omar.
Thanks, Doug. Great work on that. Yeah, so again, thanks, Doug, for the overview of our Bonfire Intake module. I'm now going to turn it over to Liu to give us an inside look of Bonfire's new benchmarking feature. Now, before doing so, I wanted to bring up a comment I made earlier about digitization of your process as being part of the overall picture. And our benchmarking feature is an embodiment of our view of what a modern procurement platform looks like. A modern platform not only helps you digitize your process, and we know all the benefits that come with digitization, but also empowers you to make decisions that are rooted in data insights and national benchmarks. So it's about enabling the procurement function to set the right expectations at the outset and to help structure your projects in a way that will help you achieve your desired outcome. And this is something that we validated over and over again in many, many meetings and user groups with our clients. And so I can't wait for you to see this feature. And with that, I'm going to pass the proverbial mic over to Leo.
Thank you, Omar. So I also want to start off with a poll here. And the question here is, how do you make sure you're optimally structuring your bids or RFPs, especially if you're faced with an unfamiliar request for products or services that you haven't ever bought before? Do you go and search in Google for templates or ask your peers for similar templates? Do you have pre-established criteria and weighting in your own organization? Or do you decide as a committee on a project by project basis? I will give everybody a minute to submit your answers here. Okay, great. Let's look at the results. So 28% of you are searching Google for templates and 54% are asking for peers for templates, while 59% have pre-established criteria and weighting within the organization, and 56% are doing it slightly more ad hoc, project by project. So this is very interesting, and it's in very good agreement with what we have found based on our own user research, and that is the problem we're trying to solve, to help people easily find templates and easily validate their existing internal templates. So why do we need to leverage data and insights in public procurement? As a procurement professional, in order to add value to your internal clients, not only should you be doing all your process online, you're also expected to know how to buy everything, whether it's IT and software projects, different professional services, specialized equipment, and even PPE and other medical supplies. So for every category, whether or not it's familiar to you, you want to make sure you can guide your clients to consider the right requirements, to apply other procurement best practices like appropriate criteria weighting, and just so that you can all achieve a successful outcome. So our clients have repeatedly told us that there would be a lot of benefits in knowing what industry norms are for each of the project criteria, so for each of the project categories, just to see how your procurement peers and at other organizations are structuring similar projects. People either want guidance when they're approaching new categories, or they want to compare their existing strategy to what others are doing. So this exposure to the industry norms or benchmarks will add to your confidence when taking any project to market, so that you know you're building it the right way. In Bonfire Benchmarking, we are leveraging more than 40,000 categorized North American competitive projects that have passed through our system since 2012. That's over more than 8 years. We're surfacing key project metrics and sample project documents right in our application. So this tool will help you to inform your decision-making and give you that confidence about your project structure, and even inform your vendor management strategy. So what makes Bonfire's benchmarking so unique? Well, Bonfire benchmarking is unlike anything out there on the market, not just because of how robust our database of North American bids and RFPs is, but also because we specifically designed it to elevate your procurement team to be that strategic partner and provide the strategic advice to your stakeholders at every stage of your sourcing process. We want to help you to build credibility with your customers and your peers and your executive teams. So Bonfire benchmarking enables everyone to make data-driven recommendations and allows you to leverage data to inform the decisions, especially early on in the project lifecycle, as Doug was mentioning, where you can make the most impact. The Bonfire benchmarking joins a family of advanced analytics tools already available in Bonfire. I won't have a chance today to get into the details about the other analytics tools, but I just want to name a few. We have consensus highlighting, rank analysis, sensitivity analysis, and proposal analysis that all support everything from internal evaluation meetings to vendor debriefs to executive reporting, and now to defining the requirements in your project. This whole suite of analytics tools bring data, the right data that you need at your fingertips without the need for you to do any additional analysis on your own. Now let's go and take a deeper look at Bonfire benchmarking to get a better idea of how it can help you. So I'm going to show you how we're combining data from your peers and your own project data to help you in 3 stages of Bonfire's project workflow. I'll list the 3 stages and then start a demo for you. So the 3 stages are: first, intake and project requirement gathering; second, when you're defining and publishing the projects; and finally, when you're evaluating and awarding projects. So Amanda, we can start the video. I think I'm seeing a arrow on the screen. This is a typical COVID technical difficulty. Everybody, please bear with us for a little bit. All right, I think we had a frozen video. Oh, here we go. So we'll get it started now. So let's dive into the first stage. As I mentioned, this is about managing intake requests and gathering requirements. As Doug has shown you, Bonfire now makes it a breeze for you to receive and organize purchase requests. So talking to our customers, we know that requesters will always want the purchases to be done yesterday, and you're always put in the position to explain to them how long running a project really takes. So let me give you an example. A request came in yesterday from the city's community housing program. They need to replace a set of residential roofs as soon as possible. It's now end of June, and the requester wants to choose a vendor in the summer in order to complete construction before winter. They also think that you don't need to run an RFP and that pricing should be the only thing that matters in this project. You're new to construction category and haven't done a similar project before. So your first instinct will be to go to Google or go to your peer network and find some templates or perhaps use the existing one in your own organization. You want to look at information like what are the criteria typically needed and how much weight to assign to pricing. And here is how you can access that information in Bonfire Benchmarking. As you're looking at any intake request, all you have to do is call up benchmarking with a simple button click, and you're automatically sent to the benchmarks for the exact category of request. Remember, there are more than 40,000 competitive projects with deep evaluation data that's behind these benchmarks. So I am called Dr. Data here at Bonfire, and I'm very excited today to share with everyone that our data research team has been working very hard to develop some cutting-edge natural language processing and advanced AI algorithms to automatically categorize all the projects on our platform. This means that we're able to aggregate the insights based on project category and bring these benchmarks to you. So back to the roofing project now. Your requester may believe that for this project, there's no need to do an RFP and price is the only factor, and they want you to execute the project within 60 days. Having never done a project of this type before, you aren't sure if those requirements are even reasonable. So let's see what Bonfire's benchmark can show you. Now, right on top, you will see that typical construction projects take around 55 days from open to award. You can see the breakdown of that timeline in detail, and the evaluation probably will be the most time-consuming step. So it could be done within the requested 60 days, provided that there is capacity on your team and to properly define and publish the project right away, and if the evaluation process is smooth. So you can also see that about 78 of projects in this category use a pricing criteria, and most projects use weighting between 20 to 40% for this pricing criteria, and only about 6% of the projects will solely depend on pricing for choosing the winner. So for qualitative criteria, it appears that experience and schedule are the most important considerations. Now, to give you even more confidence about how to execute this project, Bonfire Benchmarking also includes similar projects in each category that are shared by your peers. You don't need to go to Google and search anymore. These are hand-selected from Bonfire's large customer base, so you are going to be exposed to some of the most progressive and strategic teams to see how they're running their projects. These templates have been vetted to be the strongest in each category, and you are accessing examples where RFX documents and the scope of work have really been well built out. Now, coming back to the roofing project, you will see that there are already a couple of roofing example projects that you can download directly and review. So looking at one of these documents, it's very detailed, and this will probably help you to be able to quickly build a project and take it to market. And you can also compare to see how your own templates compare to the ones that we're providing as examples. So all of this information is right here for you in one view. At this point, you will feel much more confident to start a conversation and bring valuable recommendations to the requester. You can showcase the benchmarks to back up your recommendations. By comparing your own project to the North American benchmark, you're immediately letting your clients know that you are data-driven and that you have access to very valuable information that you can help translate for them. And you're building credibility that there is an art and a science to designing projects that achieve the best outcome for your clients. Now, once you and your clients agree on what the key criteria are and the requirements are, you need to translate these requirements into an actual project. At this stage, you're going to want to work on a draft project. So, and here you're going to be mostly concerned with how to structure the project. Now, let me walk you through another example. Here in project drafts, I have a video conferencing software project that I'm working on. At this stage, in the draft view, I can also easily access Bonfire Benchmarking to see how similar projects are structured in terms of the number and type of documents required and how many vendors to source so that I can drive optimal competition for the project. Again, you have direct access to similar projects shared by your peers for more ideas on project structure. We also have additional benchmarks to help you. So in this particular category, Bonfire Benchmarking indicates that a typical project will request 5 pieces of information from the vendors. Some projects also utilize inline item pricing, what we call bid tables, as well as questionnaires to collect information from vendors. This may remind you that those are very good options and tools for collecting data in a very structured way from the vendors. Your goal here is to build a project in such a way that makes it easy for your vendors to provide you with all the information you need, while at the same time minimizing their burden as much as possible. Now, speaking of engaging vendors, this is another very important execution step that can't be overlooked. If you have too few vendors, you don't have enough competition. Too many proposals will, on the other hand, cause a headache for your evaluation committee. So how do you gauge how many vendors you need to source? Well, our vendor pipeline benchmark will help you with that. So in software product category, the conversion rate between the number of vendors you invite and the number of submissions you receive is about 12%. In this example, it seems that it might be somewhat difficult to attract vendor proposals. You want to invite 45 vendors in order to get the expected 5 submissions. Luckily, Bonfire has a large database of North American vendors that you can invite on top of your own vendor pool. So you simply need to specify a commodity code for this project to get recommendations for the right vendors. Kyle will be going through that in more detail in his upcoming demo. So as you can see, Bonfire Benchmarking is giving you critical pieces of information that support you throughout the project intake and project creation stages of your process. It is only our latest innovation to join a whole suite of advanced data analytics tools that give you data insight to support your decision making. And beautiful data visualization doesn't stop at Bonfire Benchmarking. So I want to quickly point out other key features that we have on the platform that help you during all stages of your project. So let's quickly look at proposal analysis. That was released last year. Our clients have been utilizing this page to add color to their consensus meetings, highlighting any lack of consensus in scores, ranks, so that those items can be prioritized in evaluation discussions. And we're also showcasing how any vendor compares to the field, pinpointing areas of strengths or weakness that come in very handy during negotiations. Our customers have also been referring to this page for executive reporting and during vendor debriefs. Now, everything is consolidated for you in one place, all the analysis about the vendors. You can answer any vendor debrief request with very little prep and on very short notice. So I won't go into any more detail, but please definitely reach out to us if you want to learn more about Bonfire Benchmarking or any of the advanced analytics at Bonfire. And I will pass that back to you now, Omar.
Thank you, Liu. I'm really curious to hear what the attendees are thinking so far of those 2 modules, but also we have one more for you. And so the next and final feature we're releasing today relates to those price-only projects that make up the majority of what procurement teams run week in and week out. We've taken a fresh approach to designing this experience, and we're happy to finally be able to share it with you. Kyle, why don't you walk us through this new functionality?
Yeah, thanks, Omar. Hi, everybody. So just like we did for the last 2 modules, before we dig into this feature, we have a poll question for the audience. So we're curious, which of the following statements would best describe how your organization runs price-only bids? And so when I'm saying price-only, some people refer to these as, maybe RFTs, RFQs, ITBs, etc. But we're really referring to, those straightforward projects where, price is your primary basis for the award. And then, a lot of the time, some of these could even be invitational, right? Where you're looking for, just a number of quotes from a pre-qualified list of suppliers. So now, as we have the responses coming in, I'll just kind of, walk through the options. So from top to bottom here, we're going from, the first option where procurement runs almost every single competitive process, including a lot of your quotes. And then, moving down to more of a decentralized process where we actually get all the way through to, each department manages all of their own competitions. So we'll just wait another moment or two here. For the attendees, if you're kind of wondering, one of those middle two, they are very similar, but really, sometimes the departments running their own competitions, that would be like a construction or an engineering department or that sort of thing. Okay, so we have the results here, and so it's not too surprising from what we're seeing. Now, one thing that we're seeing a lot across our client base and across other organizations is that a lot of organizations are trying to centralize more spend, and so that could even be just through using a consistent system, a consistent process, etc. So I mean, those first two options there, those are definitely speaking to a more centralized process, even where the departments are collecting their own quotes, but that's likely only up to a fairly low threshold. So that's very interesting. Okay, so now unlike the first two features that we went over, which were intake and benchmarking, most people are probably pretty familiar with these types of projects that we're talking about. You probably have to run these quite frequently, and it's your most common types of projects. Now, what's new with how we're approaching these types of projects in Bonfire with this release is we're really trying to make it very simple and very easy for yourselves or even other stakeholders in your organization who have to run price-only bids. So as we mentioned earlier, a number of organizations call these by different names. So I mean, you could call them bids, quotes, tenders, invitationals. And we do want to acknowledge that our Bonfire clients have always had the capability to run these types of projects. So it's not exactly new that they can do it, but the way we're going about it is quite a bit more modern and more straightforward. So now, when we started the webinar, Omar talked about Bonfire's history when we launched 8 years ago. And so we were originally built to evaluate complex, more value-driven RFPs and facilitate a full evaluation process. So we still have that side of the platform, and that's working quite well. But we also know that most organizations are running far more simple bids and quotes than they are large RFPs, right? The volume is just quite a bit higher. And so that's why we've been focusing on this suite of improvements here. Now, so on the slides, I mean, we have quite a statement on the slides where we're saying that running quick and compliant bids is more important than ever before. And I'm just going to walk you through why we think this is the case. So I mean, given that a number of geographies have been pushed into more or less a state of emergency, with different emergency spending that you have to be doing and things like this, purchasing people are in a fairly tough job where they're trying to make sure that we're getting all the bids out to market to keep goods and services flowing into your agency. But at the same time, you're having to do this with less resources, and you have to do it, at a very quick pace. So it's actually probably easier than ever before to justify, maybe we don't need to be documenting everything to the same extent that we would, or maybe we're just going to take these offline, send out some emails, get some prices. And I mean, unfortunately, that type of process does open up your organization to some major compliance risks that may go under the radar in the short term, but in the long term, you'll want to be closing those gaps. You won't want to have that continue. So I mean, even if you're following best practices with the process you're using today, moving bid type solicitations into Bonfire and just increasing the amount of spend that you're putting through Bonfire means that you can really take advantage of all the benefits that a platform like Bonfire can provide for all of your competitions. So by saying this, I mean things like automatically tracked audit trails, very consistent compliant process, increased reporting abilities and oversight. And I mean, these are all of the things that beyond the specific features we're going to look at, you can get out of running more spend through Bonfire. So it's actually quite powerful at a platform level. And can we just get the next slide here, Amanda? Okay, perfect. So now, running more projects through Bonfire, I mean, I'm sure it sounds great. I don't think many people want to have, many different tools that they're using, but we do really need a plan for, okay, how is this going to work? How is it going to be easy to use? And how are we going to go about doing this? And that's where the feature comes into play. So our newest features for bidding, they're designed with the buyer experience in mind. So what we mean by that is, we're trying to make it, very quick and easy to get bids out the door and, get accurate bids out the door so that you're doing this in a compliant, consistent way. As I spoke to a second ago, what this will lead to is, it leads to, less barriers to running all events with a standardized and compliant process and, just getting more spend in one place. And then lastly here, we're also really focusing on the vendor experience. So on some of these bids, you have some vendors who, they're not accustomed to submitting to, really large RFPs. They want to be submitting quickly, that we want to make it easy for the vendors, and they're a key piece to the puzzle here. So we're trying to make sure that they're taken care of as well. And we're going to show you that in a second. Okay, and now we're going to look at a short demo of the new bidding features in Bonfire. So Omar, can we just queue up the video, please?
Absolutely, no problem.
So as Omar's queuing up the video, I'll start off by saying we're going to look at a pretty simple example of how you can set up a bid in Bonfire for just a straightforward bid with a few line items. But we also have tools where you could run quite a large bid as well. We're just focused on the simple bid here. Okay, so we're ready to go, Omar. Okay, awesome. So here, what we're showing is our projects index page, and really we're just showing that you could look at all of your projects in one place here. So we're looking at this one simple quote or simple bid that we have. You could also just be looking at an RFP and setting it up in a very similar fashion. Everything's on one page. So here, as I mentioned, we're going to set up a pretty straightforward 2-line bid. And what we're showing here is how you can set up a bid online using this brand new feature here called our pricing sheet. So this is what we've been working on most recently that I'm entering my line items into right here. Now, what we mean by saying this is 100% online is just that, we're not using PDF files, we're not using Excel files. We're setting up a structure here where, I'm setting up all the line items and I can set up whatever columns I would like. So I can, specify the exact items that I'm asking for from the vendors. So you can see here, I'm putting in some additional columns. I'm looking for plumbing services for a number of hours. And if I wanted, I could also ask the vendors for more information other than price as well. Maybe there'd be a lead time or some other types of information you need from them. It's completely customizable. Now from here, we're just cleaning it up, just removing some of the line items we don't need. And we'd be pretty much ready to go to market with this bid sheet that I just set up. So it's supposed to be, pretty quick, pretty easy. And something that either yourselves or your staff could set up with very little training in the system. So we're ready to go with this one here. So now what we're going to show next is how you could invite vendors in Bonfire. The reason I'm doing this is just because a lot of projects where you had just a few line items. They could be invitational projects, and we can do that all in the Bonfire system. So here, I actually have a pre-qualified list of plumbers in my vendor database in Bonfire. So I can pretty quickly select that list. I can add them to this invite, and I'd be able to send that out, really quickly and easily right here. Now, there's one other way you could invite vendors. You can use our recommendation engine to tap into vendors across the Bonfire network. So those would be people in your area who provide, specific commodity codes that your project's associated with. And that's something that we can also do here if you're looking to expand your vendor reach. So now I've sent out the 3 invites to my pre-qualified plumbers, and we're just going to change the pace here a little bit and show you what this looks like from the vendor side. So the reason we're doing this is, just to show you how quick and easy it can be for a vendor to submit online. So now the vendor side, it starts with an email invite. They would have just received the invite that we sent out. So this project could also be listed publicly, but we have an invite on this one. And here as a vendor, I'm able to log into your portal. It's a one-stop shop here. I can see all of your projects. And now I'm looking at this specific plumbing repair services project. So all the information is listed online, all the dates, the description. As we scroll down here, you'll see important events. You'll see there's a bid document they can download that you could post. They could access any documents you've posted. And now from here, what we're going to focus on is this submission process, just to show you how quick and easy it is. So we've actually done a lot of work on this submission process recently to bring it 100% online. And what we mean by that here is we have all the line items listed on the web page right here. So a vendor is able to look through the specs of each line item. I'm selecting that I'm bidding on them. And I can pretty quickly and easily enter my prices. So these would be hourly rates for plumbing services. And now from here, once I have that keyed in as a vendor, I'm just ready to confirm this and just save it. So because we're collecting structured information from the vendors, you can see here, there's a confirmation process, and they're actually not able to submit yet. The reason for that is because they haven't completed all of the required files. So we also require an insurance certificate. So here, the system's helping us to enforce compliance, make sure our submissions are complete from our vendor community. And now as a vendor, I'd be able to go in and finalize my submission. So here, once the vendor submits, there's a pretty clear confirmation. They also receive an email receipt as well. And end to end, I've been talking a little bit, but this has taken maybe about a minute, 2 minutes for this vendor to submit online. So it's quite easy. But if for whatever reason they're having issues, I'm showing here that they're only a click away from help. They can always be submitting a ticket to our support team, and our average response time is under 15 minutes. So we have a lot of clients on the call. I know you can attest to that. The support team is very quick to help both yourselves and the vendor community in case they need a little bit of help getting their submission into the system. Okay, so now from here, we're just going to look at the last piece of this, and this is back to what the buyer would see once the submissions have all been submitted and the project is closed. So we actually have a lot of organizations who are doing this type of process online now, and it's starting to take the place of what their old bid opening process would have been. So they have to do an online bid opening kind of over Zoom or another software like that. And we actually had a client this week who did their first online bid opening through Zoom, and they commented on how easy and quick it was to do this exact process. They were able to open 9 bids in under 16 minutes, and they were able to show, they would read all the names of the suppliers who have submitted. And what I'm going to show you here is they're able to prove that they can't access the files until they're unsealed. So here I'm showing that these files are currently unavailable, and we're just going to look at what that process looks like to unseal the files here. So I can very deliberately unseal these files. There's a timestamp on every single one. So you can see there's a timestamp there. And you can use this as proof that you didn't have access to these files prior to the opening. And now, as one last step, what we're going to do is we just have to kind of start the evaluation, so to speak. So here, with one more click, now we have full access to the documents. So you'd be able to use this type of process to show that these documents were completely sealed before opening this bid. Now from here, I'm able to see I have the insurance certificate and the pricing. Those were the two things I asked for here. You could ask for as many different forms as you want. We just did 2 today. And now, kind of as the last thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to look at how this information is structured for you. So because you've collected a couple different submissions from vendors in a structured way, you saw the structured format that we set up, the system here is able to automatically tabulate these bid responses for us. So along the columns, I'm just pointing out we had 3 vendors along the columns. They submitted to the 2 line items, and you can see the total costs along the top there. So I could just select my lowest responsive bidder here. And one thing I could do after that is the system automatically creates our bid tabulation spreadsheet. So I can download that Excel sheet, which is what we're doing. Now I know today a lot of people create this manually. So this is just another thing where if you're running a structured process online, having the vendors fill out that table after you've set it up, you're able to get some information that's tabulated for you the moment after the bid is closed. Now, we'd also be able to set this up in a number of other ways that I'll speak to now. So if you had a number of pass-fail criteria or some mandatories that you wanted to put into the system as pass-fail, you could account for that as well on a slightly more complicated setup. And as I mentioned, for this demo, we've really focused on a small project, just a few line items, and that's because we find that those are the highest volume of our clients' projects. Now, we also have some more sophisticated tools that would allow you to pretty easily run a bid that's even a few hundred line items. So we do just want to say that we can cover all of the different bidding needs. We're just focused for today on the simple case. So we're very excited to launch these features. I'm gonna give it back to Omar here. He's gonna be able to tell you what you need to do to get access to these new developments. And yeah, we're looking forward to having you use them. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kyle, for the demo. And yeah, that's actually our last demo of the day. And so, we wanted to thank everyone for giving us the time so we can give you the inside look of how Bonfire is evolving to meet new demands and pressures in the changing world of public procurement, specifically now with COVID. The 3 significant product additions, just to recap, in this new Bonfire are Bonfire Intake, Bonfire Benchmarking, and what Kyle just covered, which what we're calling a price-only bidding feature set. And all of those together should be able to enable 100% of all competitive events to be captured within Bonfire. And that includes all the way from request to award to contract to even vendor performance management. But it's not just about bringing your end-to-end processes online and stopping there. The new Bonfire is designed to elevate procurement teams from the role of administrator to a strategic partner. And this is done by strengthening connections and collaboration with your colleagues and internal stakeholders in your agency. Now, before, you may have been brought into a project planning late in the process. This is what we've heard over and over again. Perhaps informed about the procurement request through a forwarded email chain or a passing conversation in the hallway. The timelines that you're expected to meet or that you were given were basically, it has to be done yesterday. And you only had maybe a little bit of time to do a quick Google search for templates of similar projects because you've never had a source to easily kind of consult with and get a bunch of samples at your fingertips. And surfacing what documents need to be requested, how criteria should be weighted requires a lot of back and forth communication. So amidst the pressing timelines and disparate responses, perhaps you make the decision to take your price-driven bid to the streets offline. So that way you could be risking vendor reach and participation. And amidst all these tensions with the stakeholders and vendors, you risk your bid and RFP outcome that could dissatisfy your internal stakeholder. And then the cycle of hesitation to invite procurement to project planning continues. So with this set of functionality, with this new Bonfire, now we hope that you have the tools to ensure your colleagues are coming to you early with their requests. You're getting that line of visibility really early on. So not only do you have a bigger part to play in project planning, but instead of expectations being thrown at you, you now have access to the communal expertise of hundreds of North American procurement teams, and you can be the one who sets the expectations based on real data. And that's expectations related to timelines, criteria weighting, vendor competition, requested document, etc. So basically the structure of your project. And so now that you have captured the request's needs and set the expectations from the start, both your price-driven bids and your complex RFPs are both set up to succeed. So you can arm yourself with the data to say, this is how it's typically done, and to inform your consensus meetings, you can go in with these visuals that we showed earlier as well, such that you can make a decision that's rooted in a proper discussion and documented scoring and scoring reasons. And so by doing that, you're continuing to build that trust within your stakeholders. Your procurement team will find themselves with a seat at the table more and more. Again, because you're providing a lot more than process-oriented guidance, you're also providing insights and strategic insights for that matter as well. So with intake benchmarking, Bonfire will enable your team to work more effectively with internal clients and come to the table with these data-driven recommendations. Then whether you're running a complex RFP with multiple stakeholders or a price-driven bid with a very short timeline, Bonfire will now give you the tools that you need to be effective and efficient, and making sure that you get the best outcomes for your agency. So with that said, we wanted to just introduce our introductory offer with all these features that we presented today. So most of the new features that we talked about today are going to be standard part of the Bonfire solution. Again, this is how we picture the future procurement software to evolve, and therefore that should be just available to you. And that's going to be part of our introductory offer because of that. And we want to put this technology into the hands of our valued clients, as well as those who are looking for the best tools to bring their procurement processes online. Now, to learn more on how intake, benchmarking, and bidding can be used at your agency, a Bonfire rep would be more than happy to help. And if you're already a Bonfire client, reach out to your CSM. I'm sure you know who they are, and they'll be able to kind of get you started and at least give you more information about what we talked about today. And if you're not already a Bonfire client, we just want to make it well known that you can try Bonfire for free for 90 days. We mentioned that initially we ran this program when COVID was at its peak to enable agencies to work from home when they couldn't. And again, we saw a lot of success for that. And now we've proven that we can take agencies within a very short amount of time from a paper-based process to an online process. So we're going to be extending this offer now for any agency who's interested in trying out Bonfire for free for 90 days, whether you want to use this to build your business case internally or to see just how good it is to actually go off of paper and start to digitize. This is a really easy and quick opportunity for you to do so. And that, of course, will include free access to your users. That includes evaluators, suppliers, and suppliers are charged no money to access your projects at Bonfire. And you can run as many competitive events as you like. So you'll be able to create, solicit, evaluate, and award all these bids and RFX projects remotely with these simple tools that we presented earlier, and of course the rest of the platform. And you'll also be able to access our large vendor network, so the same network that our customers will have access to, you will have access to as well. And again, we can get you up and running in no time. So now we're going to turn to Q&A, and there's a bunch that have come in already. So one question that came in is, when will I have access to some of this functionality? And right now we have it slated to be released July 4th. And so after the holidays, you should come back and at least see benchmarking and price only bidding as part of your current offering. And if you're interested in intake, we're surely happy to discuss it with you in more detail and just get an assessment for your need and kind of go from there. Again, so looking at some of the questions here, where does some of the data points come from? As we mentioned earlier, it comes from, this is for the benchmarking specifically, it comes from the 40,000 projects that were within Bonfire. So we basically anonymized the data and categorized it such that you can very quickly see where each category stands in terms of those categories that we mentioned, meaning the timelines, how to set up the project, the criteria weighting, and of course access to some sample previous RFX documents that other teams had run, just to give you an idea of how those were structured and put to the market. Okay. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. In terms of who to talk to about next steps, your CSM is, if you're a current client, definitely is who you want to be chatting with about this. If you're curious about the 90-day trial, you can get in touch with us through the website. We have a little contact us button there if you're interested, and we can get you up and running. Yeah, and there's one more question here in terms of the COVID program that we ran and where that some of the clients were located, or the different geos and agencies that they belong to. And really the answer to that, it's been a pretty even spread. We had some smaller municipalities and to medium-sized municipalities come online. We've also had a lot of K-12 and as well as special district agencies like water districts, utilities, that type of a thing. So the whole gamut was involved in that program. And I would say the majority of them are actually up and running and soliciting projects online. Okay, I think those are that answers the majority of the questions. There are some off like one-to-one questions that we'll follow up with you on, but we want to thank you again for the attention and for attending today's session. And of course, if you have any questions, you know where to reach out to. For the clients, actually, there's a question that came in here that might be beneficial to everyone. We are going to be holding a very detailed training session on all of these modules later in July, so towards the end of July. And we have a special webinar and intake specifically July 16th. So if you're interested in that, please watch out for the email to sign up. But that will get you between the intake and the training webinar, hopefully fully ready to kind of use and put these features to good use at your organization. Again, thank you so much for attending today. And we hope to share some more good news with you and additional product offerings in the days to come.